in every locale, the local people should be the people who are put first.
If you don't let anyone, new people into the culture, eventually you're going to fuck your sister and not even know it was your sister.
This is the memory that comes to mind whenever an aspiring filmmaker is told to learn their craft by watching other movies. Eventually cinema is going to fuck its own sister, and I don't want that to happen. Seeing the same shots over and over again might give you that instant hit of dopamine of, I recognise that shot. But all these ideas, when torn from their original meaning, lose any sort of intention or weight or depth that they may have had and just end up looking like a facsimile of something that was great once. Like J.J. Abrams' entire filmography.
There are undeniable, parallels.
And just like human inbreeding, the longer it goes on, the more defects emerge and the lower the IQ drops. And then you end up with shit like this.
They remembered a green world.
Why is the voiceover telling us exactly what we're already seeing?
Filled with laughter.
Why do we need this information twice?
And hope for the future.
Is there nothing more that could be done with that?
And then one man found me.
Oh, what the fuck?
His name is John Connor.
Are we now as inbred as this form of filmmaking?
And he changed everything.
All of this is one little girl's bedroom.
Disappointed!
A few years back I realised that I'm not a very visual filmmaker. So I thought that one way to remedy that would be to read comics because they're essentially a storyboard there, and I thought if I just read a lot of these then it'll sort of unconsciously sink in and I'll create a more visual mind. Crazy if you look at sort of the possibilities of a single panel of a comic book compared to that clip I just showed you. You've got this space here to set the scene, you've got actual dialogue, you've got internal monologue, and that's before you thought about what's actually visually happening in the screen or in the soundtrack. Like every one of those things could contradict the other, or be telling a different story or carrying a different theme because they're all really from different mediums. The internal monologues from novels, the dialogues from plays, the framing stroke mise-en-scene is from, I hate saying mise-en-scène, I'm not French, mise-en-scène. Mise-en-scene, it looks like if you're from Yorkshire. Mise-en-scene. That's from painting or photography or from stage plays. And every idea that's being filtered through that is coming from your experience of life and your experience of ingesting all of those things. There's just so much that can be pushed through a lens. There's so many ideas, so many experiences, so many different ways to do it. But all we end up with is this sort of monoform thing. Why?
Captured and put into camps for extermination.
And why did a Terminator sequel need a recap anyway? We've known what's been going on since 1984, and even the original film just starts with images to set the feel and tone of the film, and it does it brilliantly without any of this shit. It's just why does everything have to be limited to just that incestuous watch another film thing?
I want to be eaten by a fucking shark.
Anyway, you're probably wondering what this has to do with no shark. Nothing! No, it does, because it's a film that stimulates thoughts like this in a viewer like me. For others it might not, because strain from the monoform can be quite jarring. So this film doesn't cover all the things I've just talked about, because that's let every possibility going. But I think it was Jimi Hendrix who once said about the guitar that you should learn everything you can about it, then forget it all and go your own way. And I think that's great advice for indie filmmakers as well. Not just watch other films, just take everything, learn everything as best as you can, and then just let your ideas flow. Cody Clarke's been making films for over a decade. From the sort of realist romance of Strummer and Bed, which are my sort of jams, to these much stranger experiments like the Ramekin Attack of the Blurry Finger. Not to mention that he's written his own book, stroke Bible, about filmmaking. So obviously he's given every aspect of cinema great thought. So No Shark feels like Cody entering a new era of cinematic language. All things considered, then ditched.
And if I respect that, it will absorb me too. It has to.
So what we get with No Shark is a film that's closer to literature, like something like Tales from the Underground, than to conventional film. It's a literate high, one that goes deep into its main character's thoughts and philosophies through voiceover, foregoing conventional plot to create a sort of mind map.
I think there's a ghost in the machine, so to speak. I'm not insane. I don't think that God wants me to be eaten by a shark per se, or even thinks it's a good idea. But I do think that God supports me in my pursuit of happiness. It's
jarring at first, yeah, specifically because you're seeing the waves lapping at the beach, but you aren't hearing them. Usually you would be sort of connected to that, but the filmmaker would go to some lengths to put you into that world and to connect you to that world, but in this one it was separated from it. We're only hearing the voiceover, so our perspective of the world we're seeing is being moulded completely by the main character's vision of it.
Rockaway Beach was dead last on my list. If I don't die here today, I'm dead.
I've not felt as trapped in someone's mind as this since Gaspar Noé's debut masterpiece.
Ce qui reste de ma vie, c'est pas sur votre petite fiche.
But even that had some conventional storytelling in it. Here, we're completely out to sea on the thoughts of being eaten by a shark.
I think it's just me and this bitch who is suddenly here and playing my slot machine too.
In a time when Nolan's insidious exposition influence has convinced everyone that we don't need to write characters anymore, and even people like Ken Loach in the realist tradition think that a scene like this
It's a bit deep just for a bit of graffiti.
Yeah, but like, it means a lot to me, you know what I mean?
Ah, but it means a lot to me is sufficient character building. Spending a whole runtime getting to know a character, really getting to know a character, visiting every nook and cranny of their waveringly logical human nature, seeing their view of the world, not one decided by a committee, and witnessing every other confusing complexity that goes on in these strange pink blobs we carry around atop us. This is the perfect antidote to that. And the perfect indie film. Independent in thought, independent in style, independent in distribution, because it's available to watch for free on YouTube. So if you fancy a break from the monoform and want something a bit more challenging, then check out Nershark on YouTube. And remember, every click is important because you're telling the world that this is the cinema we want to see. We are Indie Means Independent, bringing you the best of truly independent cinema. Please click subscribe.